Welcome to the 9 blessings of Passover. Did you know that God commanded Passover as an everlasting ordinance? Have you ever wondered if believers should observe Passover? Join us as we discover how placing our feet under the Father's Passover table brings blessings and protection while preparing us for the year to come. Should believers observe Passover? A simple answer would be yes, believers should observe Passover. But why is that? Surely Jesus took away that requirement. Jesus removed the curse of the law. He became our Passover lamb. So our assuming that we do not need to observe makes sense until we look a little closer. God set Passover in place as an everlasting ordinance. God uses Passover to teach. God gives us 9 blessings when we put our feet under his Passover table. God sets 4 cups before us that sanctify, bring joy, and more. God sets us apart, protecting us from 10 plagues. God prepares us for the next year of Passover. God allows us an opportunity to give into the kingdom. Jesus, our God, observed Passover, and Jesus, our God, became our Passover lamb. This list of reasons why Passover matters to God is no way a complete one, yet it tells us over and over again why Passover is vital. Passover is not just for Jews, but for all who call upon the name of the Lord. 9 blessings of Passover. Of the many wonderful things that happen at Passover, the 9 blessings of Passover God grants us stands not only an honor to receive, but as a necessity for us to answer God's call on our lives. But where does God's word speak of these 9 blessings? What can we expect when we set our feet under our Father's Passover table? According to Exodus 23, Passover has 9 blessings, each with unique importance for our transition into the next season and deeper levels of intimacy with Christ. These blessings are: number 1, divine protection. Number 2, protection from enemies through positioning and alignment. Number 3, commissioning of divine authority. Number 4, supernatural health and kingdom prosperity. Number 5, covenant protection for multiplication and longevity. Number 6, a godly release of fear and respect from enemies. Number 7, relief from the threat of enemies. Number 8, the gift of dominion and an increased inheritance. And finally, number 9, freedom from corrupt covenants. Without these 9 blessings, we're missing a specially designed piece from God, one that is meant to fit into our call. We need higher levels of protection, provision, health, and authority with every promotion, every advancing of our call. And this yearly gift from God of the 9 blessings of Passover is especially designed to answer that need. It is time to look deeper. Divine protection, the blessing of being shielded from harm and danger during Passover season. See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Exodus 23, verse 20. When we choose to set our feet under our Father's Passover table, 9 blessings become available to us. The first of which is God sending an angel before us to bring us into the place he has prepared, aligning us for his purposes for the year, every year, and to protect us as we journey there. This is vital because as we go higher into our calling, the enemy tries harder to block our path. But with this yearly renewal of God's promise of divine protection, we need not fear. We are able to answer our call without distraction. The second blessing is protection from enemies through positioning and alignment. The ability to overcome our enemies through strategic positioning and divine alignment. This may appear nearly identical to the blessing of divine protection. However, this blessing is uniquely important. It allows all the lessons and teachings of Passover to transform us, bringing our hearts and minds into alignment with our perfect God. It positions us for the season ahead and protects us from the enemy, from any legal right to say to our God, look at their sin, their disobedience. Through God's mercy and grace, we are aligned with him, which in turn causes Exodus 23:2 to come to pass. If you indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. Exodus 23, verse 22. Next, there is the commissioning of divine authority, a blessing that empowers us with divine authority to conquer all obstacles in our path. To go higher in our call, we need greater protection, positioning, and alignment. But we also require greater levels of authority. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall ultimately overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. Exodus 23, verse 24. When God not only commissions us, but allows us to utilize his authority, we are able to break down the sacred pillars of false gods in the workplace, in our homes, and on to the highways and hedges. Without God's given authority, which breaks the yoke, we would be held back from doing all we are meant to do. But God, in his mercy and grace, desires us to be more than conquerors. Number 4 is supernatural health and kingdom prosperity. A blessing that brings health and prosperity from God's kingdom. When God tells us to do something or go somewhere, we need to be able to answer that call. However, when we habitually experience sickness and lack, it becomes almost impossible to walk in obedience. How can we be a light to the world if people cannot see a difference between us and them because of our sickness and lack? How can we expect to be movers and shakers when we cannot move or shake those things that weigh us down? We are meant to live abundantly so that abundance can flow to those around us, bringing God's light and love wherever we go, so that we can bring people to jealousy for our God. See Romans 11:11. We're meant to know health and not lack, so we can answer our call. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. Exodus 23, verse 25. Next, number 5, is covenant protection and multiplication and longevity. The assurance of God's protection for a fruitful and long life. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. Exodus 23, verse 26. If we are suffering from barrenness of heart or body, it is easy to become distracted from what we were created for. We can become depressed and fail to leave a legacy, an inheritance. No matter if barrenness is physical or of the heart, both can lead to sorrow and desperation. This is why God provides multiplication, removing physical and mental barrenness. This is why he brings the blessing of full days, so we can answer our call in joy. This ability to multiply resources, offspring, inheritance, etc., and the time to do so in our key to an increased call, and both serve as one of the 9 blessings of Passover. Next, number 6, is a godly release of fear and respect from enemies, a blessing that commands respect and fear from enemies through God's power. To thrive in the midst of enemies, we have to have the right tools. While many of the 9 blessings of Passover protects us from our enemies, even providing health and long life, if our enemies do not fear, respect our relationship with God, then we can be attacked needlessly. Yes, attacks will come, but godly fear and respect from enemies lessen the frequency and force of time wasting attacks. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and will make your enemies turn their backs to you. Exodus 23, verse 27. When the enemies learn that we have a true and deep relationship with God that comes with authority, when the enemy sees that we sit at the Passover table as king's kids, then the enemy will understand that messing with us comes with consequences. Even the enemy knows better than to mess with God's children when they align themselves to God. Now, the next blessing, blessing number 7, is relief from the threat of enemies. A blessing that lifts the burden of threat and danger from our lives. When we spend too much time wondering and worrying about where the next attack of the enemy might come from, we cannot fully answer our call. We can hardly maintain the level of dominion and authority we are already at, let alone go higher, if we're busy jumping at every noise and what if. Through God's mercy and grace, we are aligned with him. Things like fear, worry, and anxiety wears us out. But God desires for us to rise above, thriving as we answer our call. This is why we need God to do what he did in Exodus 23, verse 28. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before you. Exodus 23, verse 28. Driving out our enemies, sending his warring angels ahead of us to do spiritual warfare on our behalf, so we know not the threat of enemies. By placing our feet under our Father's Passover table and accepting all 9 blessings of Passover, including this one, we cannot be held hostage by fear, worry, or anxiety. Next is number 8, the gift of dominion and increased inheritance, a blessing that bestows upon us the ability to take control and inherit more. Exodus 23, verse 30 promises that when we accept the 9 blessings of Passover, that little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. Exodus 23, verse 30. Many of the 9 blessings of Passover take away the enemy's power and provides us with relief. But God does not stop there. He turns what was meant for evil to good. He drives our enemies out before us so that we can increase and inherit the land. This addition of dominion and increased inheritance not only positions us for the future, but it also takes into account the past, putting a demand on the enemy to restore what was previously stolen. And in this new blessing and restitution, we're giving access to the physical and financial tools required to succeed at the higher call of the season. And then to the last one, number 9, freedom from corrupt covenants, a blessing that breaks free from all corrupt covenants and embraces the freedom of serving the Almighty. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, I will surely be a snare to you. Exodus 23, verse 33. Making connections, creating relationships, and entering into covenants with people, places, and things is a part of life. Yet, we often make poor choices, accidentally or not. And even when a connection, relationship, or covenant is excellent for one season, that does not always mean that it will continue to be so in the future. While change can feel intimidating, at our Father's Passover table, He prepares our hearts and minds for whatever is to come. So while it may feel unsettling, perhaps even daunting or scary, by fixing our eyes on God as we receive the 9 blessings of Passover, we become more than conquerors. We need God to put the right connections, relationships, and covenants in place for our new season. We need Him to lead us in altering our habits and patterns so that we can be set in place for the new season. And by sliding our feet under His table, we not only accept the truth that we need our Father's help, but we accept everything that entails. We accept the 9 blessings of Passover so that we can answer our higher call. The 9 blessings of Passover that God put in place were purposely designed, and they are meant to fulfill every need for the coming year so we can live our best lives.